Uh, so, friends, we all are going to talk about mutual funds today. It's been a delay in starting. We've taken some 15-20 minutes in adjusting to things. I would appreciate to catch it up with the time. So, friends, mutual funds is a fancy term. It's used in the current scenario as the best investment option, and like anyone who is investing or who is an investor in the current scenario, or who is saving, so wherever his savings, a part of his savings is for sure going to mutual funds in the current time being. So mutual funds in that case is very important. What all things we'll be talking today is the mutual fund in India, globally concepts related to mutual funds, its regulatory framework and other aspects. I will not go a lot detail into certain kinds of detail into the history of mutual funds, or detail into how SEBI regulates it or how ROC regulates it. Certain points we will just have an overview, because we would try to put on more of the practical aspect of mutual funds. So I'll be focusing largely on two parts in the entire presentation. One is understanding the mutual funds concept, mutual fund schemes, and practically also understanding the various ways in which mutual fund is being executed in India. So the way it is managed by portfolio managers or by the sales team. So that is what largely we will be doing, right? So going ahead, let's start with one quote which is very popular when we talk of putting or talking of anything related to investments. So the thumb rule of investments by any expert, and every expert, is do not put all your eggs in one basket. Now this is a known quote given and discussed many a times, and this quote is the premises of products like mutual funds or PMS or any other product. So we all know that there are certain risks in investment. There are certain and uncertain risks, both of which we study in financial management, and we also study in the SAPM security analysis and portfolio management subjects. So we know that we do not have to put our eggs in the same basket, and it's because of that what we do is we invest in various different investment avenues whenever we have to invest. And one of those investment avenues is mutual funds. And to justify this concept, the entire product of mutual fund have evolved since hundreds of years. So uh, whenever we talk of mutual fund, it is considered as one of the best structured financial product. Now when we say a structured financial product, is what does it mean? It means that we have structured or we have planned the entire product in a manner in advance, that we will gather a certain amount of money, and the investment philosophy is already there, that we will invest money in a certain criteria, based on a certain criteria, and everything related to it, returns, where to invest, what philosophy to invest, what sectors to invest, debt, equity, everything is predefined, and so it is considered a structured financial product. There are many other structured financial products like that. So this concept is the basis of all investments, and investment is something which is related to everybody. So most of the people are investing to achieve their aspirational dreams. If you talk of India, currently India and the people of India have a lot of aspirations. They have aspirations like changing the new, picking up what is happening. So if you specifically understand that what is happening, or what is the dilemma into this aspirational citizens, is every one of you and the age group of the people who is working, they have high aspirations. They want the best of the cars, best of the gadgets. They want to travel abroad, they want to travel across the globe. They want to save tax and do not want to pay tax. Also, you start working at an early age. So today if you look into India's demographic, from the age group of 21 22 till the age group of 45 50, which is the working age, we have more than 60% of our population into this age. So this age is earning, and this age is spending. And similarly, this age is making money higher than what people used to make. So let's say, for instance, your dad would have started a bank job at a salary of 400, 500 a month, and today you start a job at 35, 45, 50,000 a month. And because your income is increasing and you have a higher income, you should ensure that people do ensure, not you, most of the people do ensure that they do not end up expending too much and not saving too much. So what people try to do is they want to invest, and they want to invest for their future, to aspire to reach their aspirations and to manage their aspirations. So to manage the aspirations, we have to invest, and one of that investment comes from, one of the avenue is mutual fund. Now, why we have to think so much into investing? You know, inflation is, for the people who are working, or you will be working tomorrow, say you have a certain income which you will be earning, but we always hear that 50,000 today would be what in the future because of the inflation. So even if we look at the certain aspects in India, we have an inflation at around 5%, hovering around 5% at the current point of time. So 10,000 rupees today, 20 years down the line, would value somewhere around 3,800 rupees. So just imagine, even if you are working for the 20 years, and if you just take averaging out how you will be doing ahead, whatever savings you will be making, that would not be enough. So you have to ensure that you have a savings or an investment plan wherein you can ensure that the inflation is being taken care of. At times we see, even in when we invest in a fixed deposit in a bank, actually we say it's a positive return, but if I just put it across with what happens on the inflation side, uh, I think somebody have unmuted himself. Yeah, so what happens if we just take in the inflation aspect to it? So the returns become negative, because if we say the fixed rate of deposit is 6%, uh, and 10-30% is my tax bracket, uh, so I end up paying 2% as taxes, and 5 to 6% is again my inflation. So net to net, if I calculate, I go on a negative return if I put into the inflation factor into it. So whenever people are wanting to invest and they are looking to invest, they have to take into consideration a lot of aspects. Inflation is the biggest aspect. It's kind of a silent killer, because whatever you do, whatever you save, you should always factor in what inflation does to it. Now, just briefly understanding the investment scenario in India, like what are the various investment options in India. There are many, to be honest. I can fill the screen. I have just taken few which are like of popular and a lot of people invest. So you have PPF, which is Public Provident Fund, which offers a fixed rate of return, and you have to put in money for a certain period of time every year for certain number of years, and post that you can actually have a total withdrawal, or you can have a partial withdrawal. So PPF offers between 7 to 9% ranging. Currently, recently they have just decreased the rate of interest on PPF. Another is post office saving scheme. So post office saving scheme is a very popular saving scheme, because it tends to give you a bit higher rate of return as compared to your fixed deposits. So it gives a certain basis point of higher return than fixed deposits, and it's easy to invest. You don't need that PAN card and other things. It's just easy. You go to a post office, put in money, put in the application form, and you're through with the investment thing. Fixed deposits, so this is what a lot of people do in putting money in the bank and fixed deposits. UTF ETF, which is exchange traded funds, will be talking about it tomorrow. PMS will be talking about it later on or tomorrow. Equity markets is something wherein people have started investing, but yes, in India we are still like sub 10%, 5 to 8% of people who are investing in the stock markets currently. So yes, stock markets people are investing directly. You have the debt markets. So debt market is where people invest into the various which includes the money market, short-term market, company deposits, and other things. Money market is just for 0 to 15 days. You want to buy money from the market for a very short-term adjustment. KVP, they are not that popular now, and they were stopped by the government. Now they are reintroducing it. So KVP was an instrument which used to double the money after 7 years, or now it's like 9 years. So that was a very good way of doubling the money. So if you invest a certain amount of money, after a certain number of years you will get double your money, and so it became very popular. You have bonds, like you have gold sovereign bonds, you have bonds issued by RBI, you have bonds issued by the various government departments. Recently you had the National Highway Authority of India, which came out with some bonds. RBI normally always comes out with some bonds to meet the fiscal ends. So whenever government has to do any borrowing from RBI, government borrows it from RBI, and RBI borrows it from the general public by issuing bonds. Bonds are generally a longer term, like 10 years bond or 20 years bond, which goes on, and bond market itself has its own yield, right? So bonds are there. Debentures are company debentures, which has a fixed rate of return. Now if you just look into these options wherein people do invest, people do invest in LIC also, but we don't consider LIC as an investment option, because Life Insurance Corporation, LIC, is itself is the objective of LIC is to insure you. Okay, so the basic primary objective is insurance, and the objective is not investment. So if you look into all these options, whenever somebody have to invest, he has to think on multiple aspects, like what is the liquidity. Now let's say PPF or post office or fixed deposit. If you immediately want money that you have invested, you cannot immediately get that money out. Okay, you cannot get that money liquidated immediately. So let's say for instance you are investing 500 rupees a month as a recurring deposit in a post office, and suddenly you need funds. So sudden, you cannot take the money out. So that liquidity option is limited in a majority of this, except the equity markets, which are very liquid in nature. And most of the other, you have to forego something to get that money out. And so in all these things, if you look into the flexibility of investment, the return on investment, and the liquidity aspect, mutual fund arises to be a good winner. You can make very good money into the equity stock markets, but you are not an expert, we should not forget. So we may invest wrongly, and we may end up losing a lot of money. So what are the basic rules of investing? Before we move ahead, we'll be talking on various investment avenues in the near sessions, and everything is related to investments. So we should have a clear thumb rule that what are the rules for investing. So these are some rules which are very common when an investor puts into. So we can break it up in multiple ways, that it depends on the age of the person, the period for which the person wants to invest, or the return which he is expecting to invest. There can be multiple things on which he intends to invest. If you want to simplify that in sentence, it's like you need to diversify your investment. So it's as simple. Again, do not put all your eggs in the same basket. So do not put all your money in the same investment avenue. Split it into various different investment avenues. Understand the relation between the risk and the reward. So risk reward is as simple as that. When you study this risk reward thing, it's like higher the risk, higher the reward, higher the risk, higher the return. So if I want to have a risk free investment, so the inflation rate is kind of a risk free rate of return, is what we study. So the risk free rate of return is the investment where you have, is the inflation rate where you have no risk at all. So if you see, there is a trilogy comparison between inflation, GDP, and the FD rates, which we say fixed risk-free rate of return. All three parameters normally go in the straight line. So if you look into the GDP today of any major country, the inflation and the rate of risk-free rate of return, they're in the same lines, in the same range. So if you go for a higher risk, then there is a higher return possible, and again if you want a higher return, there is a higher risk related to it. So risk return, we'll just look into it later when we see how mutual funds and schemes of mutual funds or type of mutual funds are based on this risk return ratio. So risk return reward ratio, I think in finance you study a lot on this, and I'm sure in security analysis you will be studying in detail about assessing the risk and reward and other things. And you have to have a realistic expectation about your investment performance. So like you cannot be crazy like I'll have double my money in 1 year, or I'll have double my money in 2 years. We should be realistic when we talk of investments, that we should give time for investments. Guys, see, even a farmer, whatever food we eat, let's say we eat an onion or an tomato or an potato, it takes a certain number of days from sowing to getting the potato to our house. So the fruit which we eat, the sweetness is there because there was patience and there was the time given to it. I cannot say I'll sow the seeds today and tomorrow I want the apple. I cannot have it. Similarly, it happens with investments. So it relates to the human psychology aspect of greed, that whenever we invest, we should not be greedy, and we should, whenever we are greedy, we do not think by our minds and we make mistakes. We read a lot in newspapers that some X person ran away with certain money from people because he was giving a scheme of doubling in a certain period of time. So that's not correct. Keep short-term market movements in perspective. So that's the range in which you want to invest. You should always understand what is happening and what is moving. So you should know, like let's say for instance you are investing in the current scenario, you should know that in the current scenario, if I talk of the debt market, or if I talk of the risk-free rate of return, the economy is not doing that great. So the banks and the RBI are going to reduce the rates, and when the RBI will reduce the rates, banks will also have to reduce the rate, because bank will have to give loans to the people and the businesses at lower rate of interest because the economy is not good. So to boost the economy, that step has to be taken. Now if banks are giving less rate loans, obviously bank cannot pay a higher rate of interest on the fixed deposits. So the interest on the fixed deposits or the risk-free rate of return is going to go down big time. So at this stage of time, whatever you are investing, you have to see. So this is just an example, and we all know a couple of other things would also be moving accordingly. Also consider the impact that fees and taxes have on your investment return. You should always know that. So just giving you an example, in mutual funds, why is mutual fund so popular? Because in mutual funds, the mutual fund company or the one who is managing the mutual fund, they cannot have an expense ratio of more than 2 to 3%. Okay, it ranges from various kind of funds. So if I am investing 100 rupees, only 2 or 3 rupees out of that 100 rupees the mutual fund company will take to manage my things, and that's the only expense they can make. They have a cap of expenses. If I compare that to the insurance, let's say LIC is what a lot of people love. In LIC, approximately 20 to 25% goes in the commission of the agent. So that is your expense, right? So that is the expense on your investment which is happening, the fees the investment company is charging. So is that a right investment? No, it's not a right investment. You should always look into that when you think of it. Also remember that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. At times whenever you hear the advertisements of any investment advertisement you hear, you have a clear thing which they say very quickly, returns are indicative, the performance is based on the past, the future performance is not guaranteed. So these are the basic rules we should always be in your mind when we talk of investment, or whenever we'll be talking of any product, from mutual funds to any other product. This would be the things which would be important for each kind of a product, right? So looking at everything here, you know looking at every aspect of investment, mutual funds come out to be a very good structured product. Now we will just go one by one. These are also the advantages of mutual funds, which we will be discussing in detail going ahead. But the first thing, professional management. Now what happens, why do you go to a restaurant to have a certain kind of a food? Because the chef is trained and professional. Why do you go to a certain set of or a chain of saloon for your haircut? Because you feel they are more trained and professional. Every work which we do on our life, okay, or even if you are getting hired to a certain organization, that organization is getting paid by their clients because they are trained and they are professional and they are experienced. Similarly, when we talk of our investments, and investments means my hard earned money, the money which I have earned, वो पैसा मुझे किसी को देना है संभालने के लिए. So that money, okay, that money I should not give it to anybody. So mutual funds, what they basically do is they collect the money from various people. Okay, now let's say for instance we invest in stock markets. Okay, so when you invest in stock market, you are alone and you are investing. But what happens is you have 10,000 rupees to invest. Okay, let's assume you have 10,000 rupees to invest and you have to invest in stock markets. You say what stocks to buy. I want to buy the best of the stocks. So you say I want to buy Reliance Industries. You say, oh, Reliance Industries 1200 or 1500 rupees a share. I can just buy 5 to 7 shares of Reliance. So what could be the exposure? So I cannot put all my eggs into the same basket. Though it is 10,000, it is again risky. I said, okay, let me put into 2 shares. But again, into 2 shares, if you look into the beta or the other ratios and the risk factors, it is still high. But if I put into a mutual fund, my 10,000 rupees into a mutual fund scheme can give me the exposure to more than 50 stocks in which the mutual fund have invested, right? So that is diversification, that your money are diversified. So if I put 10,000 rupees in a mutual fund, it has the benefit of getting invested in multiple schemes that we will discuss. We just need to have an overview of the advantages. It's not much thing. And these mutual funds are professionally managed by portfolio managers who have the best of the industry experience into investment. So somebody with experience of 20 years or 15 years or 30 years into investments, into equity or debt or liquid market, will be managing my fund. So there is a professional management. There are some tax benefits because it is the investment in mutual fund, it is considered as long-term capital gain. So the long-term capital gain is around lesser than the income tax rate which you have to pay on the fixed deposits. Also there is in ELSS funds, which is equity linked savings fund, we will just go scheme, you have tax benefit which has been included into the 80G. Conveniences, you can easily it's very easy to buy and invest in mutual funds. And liquidity is, if you invest in mutual funds at any point of time, you want to get your money back, you can get your money back in just 2 to 3 working days, and that's the beauty of mutual funds. So the settlement is just T+2, as we say, is a settlement in mutual funds. So that comes to just 3 days. Whenever you want your money back, you can easily get your money back. There are kind of schemes in which you cannot get your money back, but in largely majority of these schemes which are there, they have a huge benefit of liquidity. So how does it work basically? So mutual fund is kind of a pool of investment. We always say that let's say you are 100 students, and 100 students decide to give me 10,000 rupees each. So my corpus becomes 10 lakhs. So I would invest 10 lakh rupees on your behalf, okay, as a fund manager in the market. Maybe the stock markets or the debt markets or the bond markets, and I will invest in a manner that I generate very good returns, because I am an experienced fund manager. I know how to cook the food in the best possible manner, and so I will invest cautiously after taking a lot of decisions and after thinking a lot into the markets, and these investments will generate the returns. Whatever returns are generated are passed back to the investors after deducting that nominal fee, management fee, which is less than 3%. It's like 2.5% max. So if my 100 rupees are invested and I make a return of 20%, which is 120 rupees would be the value at the end of 1 year, then out of that 120 rupees, just 2.5%, which would be like 5 rupees, would be kept with the mutual fund company, and rest every other amount would be considered as my return. And this is the beauty of mutual fund. So the company which runs the mutual fund on behalf of the people who have invested into the mutual funds with professional management, allow them to invest, okay, and so that is considered to be a a thing which is there. Okay, just a moment, I will just ensure that few students who are waiting can join, right? So this is the way it works, and this is the way it basically is the way it is structured, that it helps in getting more and more people, more and more return. So a professionally managed fund manager will invest into a certain securities, the returns are generated. It is not always that positive returns are generated. There are times where negative returns could also be generated, so that is not a thing to worry on. Important is that whatever you make out of it, the expense ratio is the least. Now let us briefly understand what is the regulatory framework of a mutual fund. So when we say regulatory framework, it's the legal framework or the structure in which a mutual fund or a fund house works. So we all say there is a asset management company which is normally the front face, and that is what we know, like we say Nippon India Asset Management Company or Principal Asset Management Company or Mirae Asset Management Company. So asset management company is the front face which actually distributes the mutual funds and manages the funds. But the key owners, so this is a structure which has been which has been created by the SEBI, which is Securities and Exchange Board of India, and this is one of the mutual fund is one of the investment avenues which has highest multiple layers of compliance, or multiple layers of reporting structure, or multiple layers of framework. So the sponsor company, okay, is the main company which is the business owner. This sponsor company has to hold a certain percentage of the total company. It can have another people on board, like let's say UTI has LIC, Punjab National Bank, and couple of other banks as sponsors. So all of them come together and they decide to start a mutual fund company. The sponsor, there are certain rules. We will not go into the rules of who can be a sponsor and who cannot be, because that's not much important for us to understand. But yes, there are various things like capital requirement, that you need to have a certain capital requirement to start or become a sponsor. You have to put that certain amount, like $10 million or 10 million rupees. You have to put it with the government, with the SEBI, to get a sponsor approved. So once the sponsor is approved, then is another which comes is the trustees. So trustees are the board of directors who would then manage the operations and who would ensure that the AMC runs well, which is the asset management company, which we say mutual fund company, who manages the funds, who takes the funds, is running well. The trustees have to ensure that the investors' right, each and every investor's right, are being taken care of. So there are many rules which are laid down by SEBI and MFI, like you have to do a proper quarterly statement communication, you have to do a monthly statement communication, you cannot deny the investor of his investment statement or a investment portfolio at any point of time, even if he is asking every day. You have to inform the customer if there is any dividend declaration, you have to inform the customer if there is any change in the scheme or anything happening in the fund, you have to inform, and that is all the responsibility of the trustees. And the trustees are the people who have a good responsibility, and they are the one whom we trust on the latter side. Then you have the asset management company or the mutual fund company, what people say. They have the people on feet and they are the face. So they are the face whom we know as investors. They would collect fund from the people, they would then invest it with the help of the portfolio managers into the markets, and they would manage the funds on behalf of us. And then they have various schemes, right, to do it. There are another few things like the depository. So nowadays the mutual funds are to be compulsory into a dematerialized form, which is an electronic form. So you have an e-statement which coming in, and e-units which are being given. So there is a depository which takes care of and which is like a bank. So if we talk of what is a depository, जैसे बैंक में हमारा पैसा, if we say I have 50,000 rupees in my bank, so 50,000 is in electronic form unless I withdraw that, right? And if I add 10,000, it is again in electronic form. So depository, like a bank does it for money, here it does it for the mutual fund unit. So if I invest and if I have bought 10,000 rupees of mutual funds from Tata mutual funds, then Tata mutual fund would allocate me that 10,000 rupees mutual funds, and that mutual funds would be kept in the depository in the electronic form, right? So whenever I want to do anything, I will again ask Tata that I want my money back, I want to redeem them, or redemption is when I want my money back. What Tata will do is from the depository they will get my money back. Then there is registrar. So registrar agent is someone who manages or who helps the mutual fund companies in doing the various transactions. So there are many transactions. So mutual fund companies do not have their own offices across India or cannot manage the entire flow of transactions. So every day there would be lakhs of transactions which happen in mutual funds. So the registrar would, on behalf of the mutual fund company, so every mutual fund company should have one registrar which they go, or a lot of times they have two. So Karvy and CAMS, which is Computer Age Management, there are the two major registrars which are famous in the mutual fund industries. Most of the AMCs are either working with Karvy or CAMS or both of them. So this is what is ensuring that the transactions happen smoothly. तो अगर आज मुझे पैसा इन्वेस्ट करना है तो मैं एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म को असेट मैनेजमेंट कंपनी में देता हूँ या फिर रजिस्ट्रार को देता हूँ, मैं कहीं भी दूंगा, माई ट्रांजेक्शन विल हैपन एंड रजिस्ट्रार इंश्योर्स दैट ईच ट्रांजेक्शन हैपन्स. Right, then there is an auditor who audits the entire company. So there are mandatory norms that an external auditor should get the things audited. Now who are the people who regulate is, so there is a huge list of people who regulate it, from Ministry of Finance. See, the sponsor, trustee and AMC, there are various forms of companies which come into. So there is a trustee company which comes into existence, there is a public limited company which comes into existence, there is an investment company which comes into existence, at times there are special investment vehicles, which special purpose vehicles which comes into existence. at times there are foreign partners and foreign investors into a mutual fund company. At times there is a joint venture between mutual, like we have Nippon India or Aditya Birla Sun Life asset management company, which is Sun ending Tata has with AIG. So because of that, multiple regulatory agencies, they take care and they manage the entire mutual fund things, and so they have multiple ways. So as a mutual fund, if I run a mutual fund company, I have to ensure that I have compliances with all of the things which are stated from Ministry of Finance, the CLB, which we say Company Law Board, the Registrar of Company, which is ROC, we say we have to regularly submit the things, the SEBI, which is SEBI, because the mutual fund companies have to investing into the stock markets or the equity markets, so they have to be complying with all the things of SEBI. Reserve Bank of India, because they invest in the money market, they invest in the debt market, they also have forex thing coming in going out, so they have to be compliant to Reserve Bank of India, the trustees as well as the auditors. So AMC, which is the asset management company, has to comply with all the things which are stated, right? So AMC has the highest compliance to take care of. Now when we talk of AMFI, then there is another thing called AMFI, which is Association of Mutual Funds in India. So AMFI is kind of we say SRO, self-regulatory organization. So it's an association of all the asset management companies in India. They work independently under the guidelines and instructions of SEBI and the MOF, and they come out with various rules and norms how asset management companies should work in India. They ensure the certification of the people who sell mutual funds. They ensure the registration of the brokers who sell mutual funds. They ensure that the documents related to any mutual fund company or an AMC are in place. They are the one who declare the daily assets under management. They are the one who has the task of informing the public about mutual funds, and they are kind of a self-regulatory who ensures that the mutual funds industry as a whole and the participants, which is the AMCs, all the AMCs together, they ensure that they promote mutual fund in the right possible manner, and they report to all the investors in the right possible manner, and ensure that investors rights and investors things are reserved. So आजकल आप ऐड देखते हो कि म्यूचुअल फंड सही है, तो वो जो एडवर्टाइजमेंट है ना, वो एमफी पब्लिश करता है. सो एमफी टास्क इज इंश्योरिंग कि म्यूचुअल फंड्स का ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोगों तक हम म्यूचुअल फंड की बात को पहुंचाएं. ठीक है. सो इट्स SRO, जिसको हम सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी बोल के, जैसे हमारे पास क्रेडाई है, रियल एस्टेट एसोसिएशन है ना, क्रेडाई रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर्स का, इस काइंड ऑफ एन SRO कि सब मिलके सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है कि सब मिलके खुद ही रेगुलेट कर रहे. बाकी तो ये सब रेगुलेट कर ही रहे हैं, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट एमफी इज अ सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी एंड इट हैज़ अ लॉट ऑफ रूल्स, हाउ यू कैन बिकम एन AMC, how you can sell funds, what are the rules of a new fund launch, what are the rules for each scheme, what is the percentage of investment you need to ensure in each scheme. All these things are being taken care by AMFI. So in I hope everything is, you are liking it, the pace at which we are going is fine. I hope that is comfortable. In case you have any questions which arise in mid, कहीं बीच में आपको questions आ रहे हैं, if you feel that I should add more of Hindi in what I'm talking or anything, in the chat box just reply there and write there with your comment that we can do this. Any questions you have, you can always put it in the chat box. We will take it at the end of the session, right? It works. So I've taken an example of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Funds. So the sponsor is Aditya Birla Capital Limited and Sun Life India AMC Investments Inc. So it's a joint venture between Aditya Birla Capital and Sun Life AMC Investments. Sun Life is a foreign partner and it's a joint venture. The trustee is Aditya Birla Sun Life Trustee Private Limited, which is the one which has the board of directors and ensuring that everything goes on in the right possible manner. Day-to-day management is done by Aditya Birla Sun Life Asset Management Company, which is the AMC which manages it, and the distribution is done by Aditya Birla Mutual Fund Limited. Custodian is the Citibank who takes care of things. Registrar is CAMS, it's called Computer Age Management Services, in short form is termed as CAMS, and these are their auditors. So this is mandatory for every mutual fund company. As you know, when we say mandatory, the mandatory terms means it is mandatory disclosure, that every company has to disclose this information on public platforms, who are their sponsors, trustees, AMC and distribution. So similarly, if you take any other AMC, this is the way every AMC is structured and every AMC has to work, right? I hope I'm clear in this. Now let us quickly understand the mutual funds in India and how they have grown. Largely mutual funds have become popular after 2003 2005. Till then, mutual funds have never been such a popular tool of investment, and I've been lucky that since 2005-6, it's almost 1.5 decades, I've been actively into the mutual fund in the markets, and I'm lucky enough to see the tremendous growth which has happened. So if you look into the things in India, it started all in 1963 when the UTI, which is Unit Trust of India, was the first one which started with a lot of banks becoming the sponsor, and post that in 1990, post the LPG, which is liberalization, privatization, globalization policy, government sector banks were allowed, and then Punjab National Bank, Bank of Baroda, these all banks came up with things, and even LIC came up with the mutual fund in this period of time. So LIC mutual fund is also there, it's a company. Around 93-96, then the private sector banks and financial institutions were allowed. So Tata Mutual Fund, Reliance Mutual Fund, HDFC Mutual Fund, these are the companies which actually started. So there were around 5 to 12 companies into the entire. So Kothari Mutual Fund was one of the first mutual funds which came into existence in the private sector as financial institution. Then a lot of things came in. Since 2003, a lot of things have changed. They allowed FDI and foreign venture to be have part of it. Post 2014, the FDI norms were again relaxed, and after 2014-15, the mutual funds are looking a consolidation phase where a lot of foreign partners are coming in. So now they can have a larger share, like Nippon India. Reliance Mutual Fund had a JV with Nippon India, and now Nippon have taken the majority stake into Reliance Mutual Funds and Asset Management Company. If we look into the current scenario, we have around 45 mutual fund companies registered in India, which is decent enough. But if I look into let's say France, which is geographically smaller than even Gujarat, or like Gujarat, have around 500 plus mutual fund companies in France. America would have around 6 to 7,000 mutual fund companies in US. So we still have a long way to go, and but yes, 45 is a healthy number. And if you look into the AUM, so AUM means assets under management. What do you mean by assets under management? Is all the money which we have invested in a mutual fund company, okay, all the money which investors put in mutual fund company as a pool of investment, which the mutual fund advisor or the portfolio manager would invest into the market, and then it gives return. This we have understand. So all the money which the mutual fund company has and it has invested in the market are considered to be assets. You know, when we say assets and liabilities, so the assets of the company is the investment in the market and the total money it has invested in the market. Liability is the money they have to pay the investors. right? Because we have paid them and they have to give us the back. So the total money invested by all the 45 registered mutual fund companies in India into various markets is around 22.26 trillion rupees, which is huge. We are expecting this to go to 100 trillion by 2030. 100 trillion rupees is what the size of the mutual fund industry is expected to be with the way we see the flow of money coming. I was talking about 2014 and the jump post that. If you can just see the graph, I have just taken this graph from MFI's website. So if you can see 2014, it was just 2 trillion, right? And then suddenly it went to 15 trillion in just 2 years. So this is the way mutual funds have been actively and aggressively growing in our country. And we have a lot of new kind of funds, new kind of strategies which are coming in. MFI is actively taking participation. There has been negative for the industry, which has been that the because of the expense ratio be on the lower side. Expense ratio means the expense which an mutual fund company can do is on the lower side. The commissions they pay to the agents or the distributors of mutual funds is very low. It ranges from 2 paisa, 5 paisa to around 50 paisa, which is like just 2 basis point to 50 basis point of the investment. So even if you have done an investment of 1 lakh rupees, you just get like 10 paisa or 10 basis point as your commission. And that's the reason a lot of good mutual fund advisors have moved out. So the MFI and the SEBI, what they want is they want that the mutual fund advisor should charge for the consulting they are giving, and they should not make money out of the schemes they sell. That was a drawback, but even after that drawback, the mutual funds in India is steady and growing very nicely. If we talk of the top companies or the top mutual fund AMCs in the current scenario, by going by the data of 31st March, we have these companies which are among the top 10. I have worked in a situation where there were hardly 15 to 20 AMCs. At that point of time, we were just, everybody wanted to be the top 5, like we are under the top 5 companies. Then the time came that we went to a number of 30. We started talking of let's look into the top 10 mutual fund companies. Now we have 45 companies. So now a lot of people are looking to the top 15 mutual fund companies and investing based on that. So these are all proud names. We know Aditya Birla, ICICI Prudential, SBI mutual funds, UTI mutual funds, Nippon India, which was Reliance Mutual Fund before now, HDFC Asset Management Company, Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company, Axis Asset Management or Axis Mutual Fund, Tata Mutual Fund. They are known. There are a couple of others like we say Parag Investments, Motilal Oswal is there. We have Mire, we have Principal Asset Management Company. There are so many. Yes Bank Mutual Fund. So there are so many AMCs which have come, and these are the things. So you should know what the market is. Basically the objective of telling this is we should know what the market is, and we should be aware what are the names which are the best. Now on what basis do we decide that these are the top companies? Based on the AUM, which is assets under management. I'll tell you a story. In 2007 or 8, Reliance was the first mutual fund company to cross 1 lakh crore of AUM, which is 1 lakh crore of money they had invested on behalf of the investors. So the investors value was 1 lakh crores somewhere in that point of time, and today we see it's like 100 times bigger than what it was. And then things have just keep on moving. So we should know what's happening in the industry. Now there are certain terms which we should be very much aware of, which we, before we go ahead in understanding the schemes and understanding how a mutual fund works or how a mutual fund scheme is being there. So first thing is, See, when you have to invest in a mutual fund, each mutual funds have various schemes. Okay, so if I have to invest 100 rupees, I do not invest in Axis Mutual Fund. I have to invest in one of the schemes which is of Axis Mutual Fund. Now, what is a scheme? Scheme means, as we all know, the term itself is a bit scary, but scheme means that it is a predefined format which I will be investing. It is a predefined manner in which the entire money which you would be giving would be invested in and would be going in. So each AMC has multiple schemes, and for each scheme they need to give detailed reports. So key information document KID has to be for each scheme. Now, what does KID include? KID includes everything about the AMC. It includes everything about the portfolio manager, a complete profile of the portfolio manager. We will surely look into a KID in the next couple of minutes. We will understand what a KID and practically see a KID. It will include the details of all the other funds and schemes of the mutual fund company. It discloses all the returns which the other schemes have given. It informs about the investment pattern. It informs about the risk. It informs about the manner in which you can invest. It includes a application form and includes all the expenses and the expense ratio where it is going to put in. And it also includes certain important things like the benchmarking index. Benchmark index means whenever you put out a scheme and you have to compare the return of your scheme. My scheme has given, I invested 100 rupees, current value of my investment is 120 rupees, so my return on the scheme is 20%. But if I have to compare it with the market, there has to be a benchmarking index. So there are so many indices on the BSE and the NSE, like the Sensex or the BSE Metal or NSE IT, NSE Bank, Nifty 50, Nifty Mid Cap, Nifty Pharma, Nifty Tech, Nifty Steel or Metal, Nifty Oil and Gas. So these are various indices, and these indices are benchmark indices. Now, benchmark indices mean that this indices would be my reference point of comparing. That a return is 20%, and this return has the investment philosophy of investing in pharma stocks. So my benchmark index has been Pharma Bank or Nifty Pharma. So if Nifty Pharma has given 18% return and your fund or your scheme has given 20% return, we would be comfortable to say that my scheme has outperformed the index returns, right? So that is the benchmarking index which comes. It includes the expenses ratio and all other things. Another thing is a fact sheet. Fact sheet also we will see practically. Fact sheet is a monthly communication which each asset management company has to do with all its investors. Fact sheet includes details of all the schemes. Fact sheet includes a timely update of change in the portfolio or change in the investment pattern or change in the various AUM month on month. So see, every day people buy and sell mutual funds, right? It's not that it's stagnant. Every day people would buy and sell mutual funds in open-ended schemes. So every day the AUM, which is asset under management, would go up and down. Even the asset management company or the portfolio manager will buy some stocks today, sell some stocks tomorrow. So the buying and selling of stocks or bonds keeps on happening on regular basis. So this has to be updated to the investor on daily basis, which has been updated online. But fact sheet is something which every month, it has been published every month, and it has all the key details of all the schemes of the company. Another is called net asset value. So this is the very important thing. Like when we invest into a share, So we invest at the market price of a share, right? That I invested in Reliance at 1270 rupees, or I invested in Jubilant Food at a current price, or I invested in Wipro on a certain price. Similarly, net asset value NAV means, let's say we have a scheme. So as I said, each mutual fund company has multiple schemes which they launch, and each scheme is being divided into number of units, like we have shares, right? So the mutual fund company divides it into the units, and it says that 1 unit is of 10 rupees or 1 unit is of 1000 rupees. So if an investor is putting 1000 rupees, he will get 1 unit. If he invests 2000 rupees, he gets 2 units. That is the initial investment of the investor, and the 10 rupees is the price at which he has invested. Now going forward, the asset management company portfolio manager will invest this money into the market, right? And he invests this 2000 rupees into the market, and this 2000 rupees are becoming 4000 rupees. So 4000 rupees is the value of the market, but what are the number of units of mutual fund? 2, right? There are 2 units of mutual fund, and the market price of these 2 units is 4000 rupees. So the net asset value is nothing but the value of the assets into the market divided by the total number of units. You have to deduct certain expenses, and there is a predefined formula for the same. We don't go detailed into it, because you get the NAV of each mutual fund and each scheme every day. It is updated on the MFI's website. So we are not supposed to calculate on daily basis, but yes, we should be aware how it is being calculated. I just told you assets under management. I just explained you units. Then you have the NFO. So new fund offer. NFO is new fund offer. Like we have IPO in the stock market, the first time asset management company comes with a new scheme, okay? The first time the company is going to the public for funds on a new scheme, it is called a NFO, which is the new fund offer. Cutoff time. So cutoff time is the time, so let's say if there are ongoing schemes, okay, and I have to invest 10,000 rupees today. So the cutoff time in the mutual fund industry is 3:30. So if I invest or if I submit my application before 3:30, okay, then my investment will happen on the net asset value of a day before it. So let's say, for instance, I will give you an example. Today is today we are on Thursday, okay. So if I have to if I put my investment application form before 3:30 today, then my investment will happen in the NAV of yesterday. So the cutoff, if my investment or my application reaches the AMC before the cutoff, the investment happens on the NAV a day before, or redemption. So there are 2 things: either I want to invest or I want to take my money back. So even if I want to take my money back and I give an application to the AMC, if I do it before 3:30, it will happen on the net asset value, which is NAV per unit of yesterday's price. And if I do it after 3:30, then it will happen on the NAV which will end, or which would be there at the end of the day today. Correct? So let's say, for instance, the market has done very good today, or the market has jumped 1000 points today, and I see my NAV to increase by 1 rupee per unit, and I am holding 10,000 units. So to get the effect of that, I will always put a redemption request after 3:30. So it will happen on today's NAV. So that is the cutoff time, which is very prevalent into the entire mutual fund industry. So you have to ensure that the cutoff time, your investment application or redemption application is normally before the cutoff time. It happens on time. Portfolio manager, as I said, the person who manages the scheme. So for each scheme there has to be a portfolio manager, mandatory, and which has to be disclosed, that for each scheme there is a portfolio manager who takes care of the entire scheme, and he makes the investment decisions whether to invest or not to invest, where to invest, where not to invest. So he's the portfolio manager. Portfolio managers are normally qualified chartered accountants or CFAs or MBA finance, and they understand the markets well. They have a huge experience into the market, equity or bond or debt, and it's because of their expertise and experience they become portfolio managers. We have a lot of portfolio managers and CIOs who've become famous, like we have Madhusudan Kela, Nilesh Shah. These are the people who've been excellent portfolio managers, and they've been extraordinary in giving excellent returns for their mutual fund schemes. There is a new term which is coming, which is called Chief Investment Officer, it's called CIO. You know, nowadays the mutual fund companies are becoming very big. You know, as I was saying, around 20 lakh crores is something which AUM of a certain AMC would be. So managing that huge amount, they have like 100 of schemes which are going. They have a portfolio manager team of 20-30 portfolio managers are there. So to head the team of portfolio managers, there is somebody whom they're appointing as a CIO, which is called Chief Investment Officer, who actually works on the philosophy of the various portfolio managers, and who gets ensured that the portfolio manager are working the right strategy, and they're investing in the right areas, they're taking the right calls, and they're ensuring that the schemes give good returns, right? Because the entire basis of investment in mutual funds is that it gives better return as compared to any other term of investment. Now we come to the most important aspect, which is the types of mutual fund, right? We will just go into what are the various types of investment which are available, and I'll just put in a full screen here to make all of you understand in the right possible manner. So mutual funds are broadly categorized in two ways. One is open-ended and close-ended. Now when we say open-ended funds mean at any point of time you can invest into the mutual fund and you can move out of the redeem. So any point of time you can invest, and any point of time you can move out of the investment. That is called open-ended funds. So open-ended funds, after once the NFO or once the fund is been open, you can invest at any point of time and come out at any point of time. Another is closed-ended fund. Now closed-ended funds are funds which are also called interval funds, wherein if you invest, they are open at a certain period of time for investment, and then they are closed. So let's say for instance, closed-ended funds are, if I invest today, I cannot take out my investment before 3 months or 3 years. That's close-ended. So I cannot sell my investments before the end of the period. So close-ended funds are like in interval funds. So based on the structure, there are two kinds: open-ended, when you can any point of time invest, any point of time come out of it. Close-ended funds are the funds wherein you have to invest and then you have to stay back for the prescribed period, and you are aware, you are, the fund always tells you that this is close-ended and you cannot come out of the investment before a certain period of time, and they are interval funds. So few funds like most of the debt funds or FMPs, which we'll just talk, or the ELSS, is equity linked savings scheme, they have close-ended, or capital protection schemes, they are close-ended, wherein you can invest at a particular point of time and you cannot come out of it before the prescribed period of the scheme. Now if we talk based on the investment objective, then the mutual fund can be divided into three parts. A is equity funds, B is balanced funds, and C is debt funds. So the balanced funds are also called hybrid funds. Okay, so see, basically when we talk of mutual funds investment and mutual funds, they basically invest, or if you look into the broader investment avenues in India, the two big investment avenues, if you compare, or if you just club in everything is either the equity markets or debt markets. So these are the two major investment avenues which are available open for investment. And mutual funds intend to invest into these areas based on the investment objective. Now when we say investment objective is so these are mutual fund schemes which we are talking. So each mutual fund scheme has a specific investment objective, that it will invest into a particular way, or there is which is called investment philosophy, that I would only invest into the stocks which have high dividend yield, okay, or I will only invest into the stocks which are into the pharma sector. I will only invest into the stock which are into the lifestyle business. So these are the themes, okay, these are the philosophy, investment philosophy. If you talk of let's say debt, there also they have their investment philosophy, that I will only invest into the liquid market instruments or the money market instruments, or into the gilt funds. So now let us one by one break it and understand what these funds come to. First is index funds. I will not talk on index funds because we will be talking in detail about the kind of index funds in the ETF, which is exchange traded funds, tomorrow. Right, but yes, index funds are funds which are benchmarked with various indices. So maybe with the BSE, Pharma, or Sensex or Nifty 50, based on that they do it. Another is the dividend yield fund. So dividend yield means that we can they only invest into the stock. We can only invest into this okay okay, sorry, I so dividend yield means they will only invest into the stocks which has higher dividend yield. We all know what is dividend. So dividend which is paid by a company based on their performances. So they will only invest into the stocks which are paying higher dividend. Then is equity diversified funds. So see, when we say equity diversified funds, so if we talk of equity markets, there are three categories which we talk of equity markets. A is large cap, B is mid cap, and C is small cap. So based on these caps, maybe their categories on the indices. So based on this large cap, mid cap, or small cap, diversified funds means they do not invest into a particular sector. The funds include, or the scheme includes investment into various stocks from various industries A, and B from various market caps. So it can be from pharma, power, mix of pharma, power, banking, IT, and it can also be from large cap, mid cap, and small cap. So it can be either of the things. Then comes thematic funds. So thematic funds are funds which are based on certain themes. I'll say there is a theme of lifestyle. That I want to have a fund which is based on a theme of lifestyle. Now when we say theme of lifestyle is anything related to lifestyle, or the stocks which are related to lifestyle, be it cosmetics, or be it retail malls, or be it a social media company, or be it cinema, be it radio. These are related to my lifestyle. So I will only invest into the funds which are in a specific theme. It's called thematic funds, which are theme based funds, lifestyle, or now we have agriculture theme funds which are specifically into agriculture related things like irrigation, or warehousing, or chemicals, or fertilizers, or you have themes into power, or themes into financial services. So these are thematic funds. Now there is very similarity between thematic and sector funds. In thematic funds can have stocks or can have investments into different sectors. So let's say if I am talking of lifestyle, in lifestyle there can be something related to retail, and there can also be something related to manufacturing. So a company manufacturing laptops is also a part of a lifestyle, and a company selling clothes, which is retail, is also a part of lifestyle. So thematic fund can have stocks from various sectors, but sectorial funds, when we say sector funds, it includes investment into a specific sector only. Now let's say banking sector, so it will only invest into the funds which are from banks or which are only into the banks. Or if I say power, it will be only related to power, be it power transmission, power generation company, there only I will be investing. If I say automobile, I will only invest in the companies which are either manufacturing automobile or which are into automobile ancillary, right? So it's very specific in terms of sectorial funds. Then comes is ELSS. So ELSS are a special kind of a funds called equity linked savings scheme. So we all know that government under 80G gives benefit, tax benefit of investment up to 1.5 lakh rupees. So if you invest into the ELSS scheme, which is equity linked savings scheme, you can get that benefit of tax advantage. So ELSS is largely a close-ended thing, and there is a lock-in period. Lock-in period means once you invest, you cannot come out of the scheme before 3 years. So ELSS is a lock-in period. ELSS is largely equity diverse. The investment philosophy is largely of that of a equity diversified fund. It includes funds from large caps and mid caps, and that's the way it goes. Sectorial funds also includes thematic fund also includes the mid cap or the small cap funds. In the current scenario, if you look into it, the thematic or the sector funds, they are very risky, they are high on the risk. Now let's assume the last 1 year have not been good for automobile, and somebody who would have invested into a sector fund of automobile or auto would have huge losses because the auto industry has collapsed big time. Or somebody would have invested into lifestyle, going ahead from now entire lifestyle is crashed, and so they will have a huge risk. So there it has a large risk. So the balance funds, when we say of the investment objective equity fund, so the investment objective, when if it has to be an equity fund, then the minimum investment of that scheme into the equity markets has to be minimum 65% of the total portfolio. Okay, should remember that when we categorize a fund as an equity fund as an investment objective, which means that the minimum investment of my fund or my scheme has to be 65% into the equity markets, right? So if I have 100 rupees into my scheme as an investment, 65 rupees needs to be invested into the equity, 35 rupees from 65 to 100. Okay, minimum 65, maximum 100 I have to invest into the equity markets. I should not go below the mark of 65 into the equity if I have to remain as a equity fund. So investment objective of the scheme has to be investing in equity markets from minimum of 65 to above for being a equity market. We'll go to the debt market, and then we'll come to the balance or hybrid funds. So debt funds, again, if my scheme has to be a debt fund, then minimum 65% of my fund has to be invested into the debt instruments. Okay, then only it would be considered as a debt fund. Now what are these funds? The first one is a liquid fund. You all know what liquid markets are. Liquid markets are the market wherein you borrow money, which you all we know, money market or call money market. Call money market is 0 to 15 days we need money, we buy from the market. So liquid funds are the funds which are into institutional lending to various corporations and banks. So you know, the need of funds for 0 days or 1 day to 15 days to 3 months is being satisfied by the liquid markets. So the liquid fund, so if you invest in liquid fund of a mutual fund, then the investment objective would be they would participate into the liquid markets. They would lend money to the people into the liquid market who need funds for a very short period of time, and then they would return the funds, and whatever return they get, you get. So the debt markets, the average return is from 3%, 4% to around 10-12% max. Okay, in the entire debt markets. And in equity markets, the average return since 20 years has been around 22 to 27, 22 to 25%, and in debt market it has been around 8 to 10%. The risk in the debt market is low. Next is gilt fund. So when we say gilt fund, it is government issued treasury. Okay, so its objective is that it will only and only invest into the government issued treasuries. So government may issue like 30-day T-bill, 90-day T-bill, treasury bills, or it can come out with various other bonds. So the objective of the fund is it will only and only invest into the government thing. So it is very secure. Then is income funds. So income funds are the funds wherein they would only invest into the debentures or the bonds in which there is a good dividend payout. Okay, so when you invest into a debenture or a bond, you have an option of not in the mutual fund. When let's talk of the debt market. So when we invest into a debenture or a bond, we have two options that either we want the money or the return as a monthly interest, or we want a cumulative at the end of the year. Okay, so it's either of the two which we want. So in income funds, they would largely invest into the kind of securities or the kind of instruments wherein there is a good income thing coming every month. FMPs is fixed maturity plans. So FMPs is very famous for investing and getting the benefit of inflation. So FMPs are normally of 11 months and they end before the end of a financial month, or they are of 13 months. So FMPs are like fixed deposits that you have to invest the money. It is predefined that after 11 months or 13 months the indicative yield is stated. There is demand of money by various financial institutions. Like let's say for instance in the debt market, Bank of Baroda or Axis Bank is in need of 500 crores for 11 months, and they would repay that 500 crores after 11 months. So a money market or FMP, what they will do is they will go to 5 of these institutions and they will tell them that, boss, see, I will help you raise the money you need. And let's say they come back with a mandate that they need 100 crores for Axis Bank or 100 crores for certain financial institutions, and the indicative yield is 9% at the end of the year. So they will open an FMP to investors and they will ask investors to invest. The amount of investment would be predefined that we will close the scheme once we receive 1000 crores, and this amount would be repaid to the investors only after the end of 1 year. So FMP is kind of fixed deposits. The advantage of putting into FMP is the return is considered as the long-term capital gain. So if you are in the tax bracket of 30%, you directly save a certain good amount of tax there. Second, you also have better rate of return as compared to fixed deposits. So FMPs have been very popular in the last couple of years. And then comes this floating rate funds. So floating rate funds are there are a lot of debt instruments which are issued in the market with floating rates. So floating rates are like MIBOR, MIBOR plus 2-3%, or LIBOR plus 2-3%. Now what is this? MIBOR is Mumbai Interbank Rate. Okay, Mumbai Interbank Rate is the rate at which in India, when we say floating rates, the reference rate for floating rates we take is MIBOR, and internationally we take LIBOR, which is London Interbank Rate. So when we take MIBOR, there are a lot of instruments which are issued. Let's say for instance, I as a company, the interest rates are changing every quarter. The RBI makes change to the interest rates, and based on that the entire debt and the lending market has a lot of ramifications which happen. So I as a company would be very smart. What I will say is I am issuing you instruments and I want funds, and the rate of return or rate of interest would be MIBOR plus 2 or MIBOR plus 1, which is the base rate would be the Mumbai Interbank Rate, and it would be plus 2%. So let's say when I'm issuing the instrument, the MIBOR is 5%, then the rate of return would be 7%. After 1 quarter, if the rates of return or the RBI revises the repo rates and changes it or reduces it by 25 basis point, then MIBOR would come to 4.75 and the rate of return will be 4.75 plus 2%. So the objective of these funds, so these mutual fund schemes will only invest into the instruments which have a floating rate and do not have a fixed rate of return. I hope I have understood. The next is arbitrage funds. So arbitrage is the term arbitrage means taking benefit of price difference from two different markets. Okay, and when we talk of bond funds, there are a lot of benefits. So arbitrage funds have benefits of like if there is a bond, I would invest into a bond which is expiring in 2030, and then I would convert that bond into an expiry of 2020, and by doing that I can have a differentiation of 1%. Okay, 1% or 100 basis point is something which I can earn out of it. Then I will do that. I will only invest into the arbitrage funds. Another is MIPs, which is called monthly income plans. So here when we talk of income funds, in income funds the income can be quarterly, half yearly or yearly, in which the income is to be paid. MIPs are specifically focused that every month whatever investment I have made, I want a monthly payout of the return which you are making out of the thing. So debt instrument would be investing into only the instruments in which there is a monthly income plan or there is a monthly income possible. And then let's come to the balance funds. So balance funds are like a hybrid fund which is mix of debt and mix of equity. So one of those a fund is called capital protection fund. So what they do is, when we say debt oriented fund, so in debt oriented fund it states that 0 to 65% would be in debt and 0 to 35% would be in equity, right? So it will not invest more than 65% in debt and more than 35% in equity. The reverse for equity funds would be not more than 65% in equity and 35% in debt, correct? So these are the kind of various funds based on the structure and based on the investment objective. Now if you just categorize these funds, there are more than 10,000 mutual fund schemes which are currently active in India. Okay, so many mutual fund schemes. So every company or every mutual fund AMC has multiple schemes in debt, liquid and balance funds, and so it becomes very difficult for somebody to identify which fund or which scheme to invest in. So there are various parameters which you have to look into, like the returns of 3 years, returns of 5 years, and then you have to decide for investment. So I hope I am clear with this types of mutual fund. Any confusion here with this thing? You all are okay and you've understood this types of mutual fund? I would appreciate if you can write yes or no. Right? Perfect. Great. Okay. Now based on this category of funds, I have just put that on the risk and return. So this is the return and this is the risk. As we see, as the risk increases, the return increases. So lower the risk in the debt funds, the entire debt funds, they come into the lower risk and the lower return criteria. And the gilt funds, bond, high yield funds, they give approximately lower return. The risk is also lower. As we move off, if we go to the balance funds, the risk is bit higher. Growth funds have on the higher, which is higher return potential. So this is basically the risk return trade-off based on the investor's thought process. Now the another thing comes is who can invest in mutual funds, right? So anybody can invest, and most of the things I've stated. This you should know, because in case in future you take up as a career into canvassing or selling mutual funds, you should have a clarity on who and how they can invest. So these are the people who can invest, and what does one need to invest. So in mutual funds there is one thing which is mandatory, which is KYC. It is also electronically done, eKYC. So before investments into any mutual fund, you should have a proper KYC done, and if you have that eKYC thing, then you can invest into, so one eKYC you can have across mutual funds, you can invest with that one eKYC. PAN card have become mandatory in the last couple of years to invest. You need to have your bank details. Demat account details are advisable, so you can have the schemes in your own Demat account. Nowadays you can invest either online or offline. Now when you have to invest, the investment can be done in two parts. You can either invest a lump sum amount. So a lot of people ask, what is the minimum amount of investment which can be done in a mutual fund? So the minimum amount of investment is 5,000 rupees lump sum, which is at a one go you invest and then you forget. And the next kind is called the SIP, which is systematic investment plan, when you have to invest each month, and you invest as low as 500 rupees a month. So if you want to invest in mutual fund, there are two ways of investment. One is lump sum investment, when you have to invest together, and another is your SIP, which is systematic investment plan. I'll just talk on SIP at a later stage. On what basis do you need to decide? So see, you are on either side of the mutual fund as an investor, as a portfolio manager, or on the sales side. You should very clearly be thorough with these four things. What is the risk category? So risk category of the person who is investing, risk category of the scheme which you are offering, both you have to know. Return expectation of the person who is investing, which is the investor, and the past returns or the return benchmarking of the mutual fund scheme. Period of investment, does somebody want to invest for a short term, long term, or mid term, and what are the tax benefits one has to invest on. This can be elaborated and understood, but I am sure you would be able to understand what I am talking. Now let us understand schemes. So I will just let us first go with the let us first go with the key information document which I was talking to you, correct? So this is a key information document of one of the mutual fund scheme of HDFC, which is called HDFC Top 100. So this is a detailed 56-page key information document, which would include all the scheme details, which would also include the application form, how you can invest, and everything, right? So you can see here HDFC Top 100 is the name of the scheme. HDFC Mutual Fund is the mutual fund company, and an open-ended, this is the objective. It is an open-ended equity scheme, and it is investing in large caps, right? Now it is compulsory for every mutual fund company and every scheme to describe this riskometer. Okay, what is the risk, and it has to also suggest that whom is this product suitable for. So it states the product is suitable for long term people, which is the term which we just discussed, and who are looking for capital appreciation, and it is going to be into the large cap companies, and the risk is moderately high. It is not high, it is moderately high. Now if you see here, it has stated the sponsor HDFC Limited, its registered office, and Standard Life. So there is a JV, these two companies are sponsors. This is the asset management company, right? And this is the trustee, which we just discussed, which we just saw, correct? And it says it is been in accordance with the SEBI regulations, mutual fund amendment, and it has been approved by SEBI. Now if you see what all things a KIM includes is, see, if you understand and learn to read a key information document and a fact sheet, I am sure you don't need any other thing in the world to know about mutual funds. You will be an expert. Okay, you will be an expert in the mutual fund. It talks about the scheme detail. It has the application form. It has instructions to application form, how to fill, what to fill, and it's very interesting. You just read it. It is so elaborate and it explains in a so fantastic way. It is self declaration and certification, which it talks on. Oh, somebody wants to join at this stage of time. Interesting. Okay. It's third party declaration form, and then it also has an thing for SIP, and then it also has systematic withdrawal and official points of acceptance where you can submit the application. So let's start with the details of the scheme first. So if you see, these are the things you should be remembering. So we just discussed name of the scheme, category, type of the scheme, and the investment philosophy or the objective. It says to provide long-term capital appreciation in large cap companies. Then important is what we were talking of, the asset allocation. Why is it an equity scheme? So it clearly states equity and equity related instruments, minimum it would be 80% into equity and maximum it would be 10%. It would not be less than 80% into the equity schemes, and so it defines it is about. And it is also stated where it will not invest more than 20% into the debt, more than 20% into a specific equity scheme, equity stock, or it will not invest more than 10% into the preference shares. So this is the way it talks, and here it defines, or it also elaborates the term large cap. So if he says on what basis or what large cap, it says it is based on the circular of SEBI on this thing. It consists of first 200 companies in the full market cap. So basically what we say of the large cap, mid cap, how they are categorized is like, let's say for instance there are 7,000 companies which are listed on the BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange. So out of this thing, the first 100 companies with the largest market capitalization. Market capitalization means the value of the share multiplied by the number of outstanding shares. So the 100 companies, top 100 companies with the largest market capitalization will be considered as large cap. Then similarly the second base would be mid caps, and the third base would be small caps. So mid caps are around 3,500 companies or so, and small cap are similarly the rest of the companies. Now they also say that what are the other things. Now what is the risk profile? They've stated pages 6 to 8, it has the risk profile. Now plans and options, this is the way you can invest. So when you invest into a mutual fund and you want to get the returns, there are multiple ways of getting the returns. There are two ways in which you can get the return. One is the growth and another is dividend. Now growth means I invest 10,000 rupees today and I will not withdraw it till I want to. Okay, so I will not withdraw it for 3 years, 5 years, and the capital would be appreciated. And the other way is dividend payout. Okay, what happens in dividend payout is on regular intervals. What happens is once the mutual fund scheme starts performing and it starts making money, it starts distributing the income earned to the investors back. So it starts distributing dividend, which is the additional income which is earned, and which is called dividend payout. So in dividend you have two options. You either have the option of dividend payout, wherein the amount of dividend declared would be deposited in your account, or you have an option of dividend reinvest. So let's say for instance the company has declared the mutual fund scheme has declared a dividend of 100 rupees. In payout option, 100 rupees would be credited in your bank account, and in the reinvestment option, the number of units according to in based of 100 rupees would be purchased and would be added back to your application. Now applicable NAV, again see the cutoff time is 3 p.m. of the business day. If it is before 3 p.m., what will be applicable and what would not be applicable. What is the minimum amount of purchase and the units? So you have to invest a minimum of 5,000 rupees, and once you have invested 5,000 rupees, if you have to invest in the future, the minimum of 1,000 rupees. And SIP, you can do it at starting from 500 rupees. They also state that what is the benchmark index, as I said, to compare the returns. So it is Nifty 100 index, which is the benchmark index. They also have to state that who is the manager who is managing this fund. So you can see Mr. Prashant Jain, he has an experience of 15 years and 9 months, and Mr. Amar Kumar, he is here since 2 months. So Pankaj Jain is managing these funds, this specific scheme, since 15 years. So since its inception. So you know, top 100 HDFC is among the oldest mutual fund schemes in India, one of the best schemes also, and that is why I have taken this example. So Prashant Jain is managing this fund since its inception, almost 15 years, 16 years. What's the trustee company? HDFC Trustee Company. Now they also have to disclose the returns or the performance of the other schemes, specifically their HDFC scheme. This scheme performance they have to explain in the KIM, and this is till March 29. So if we say last 1 year they have given a return of 17%, and the benchmark index was the Nifty 100, it has given 13, it has been better than the benchmark. 3 years we can see, 5 years we can see, and since inception. So since inception it has given a return of 20%. Okay, so just imagine the fund actually was started in around 96. So if you have invested in 96 CAGR, compounded average return, your money would have been amazing, right? So here it states HDFC return in the things, direct plan, growth option, and this talks about their portfolio. So they also have to, mutual fund companies also need to disclose where they are investing. Every day they have to disclose, and every month they have to disclose to the investor, because I have put my money into them, so I need to know where my money is invested. So top 10 holdings are ICICI Bank. Of the total thing, if I have 100 rupees in my fund, 8% is with ICICI, SBI. So these are the top 10 stocks in which my thing have invested. So total 63% of the total investment is in this top 10 things. I also need to clarify on the sectorial percent, so which sectors I have invested. So you can see there is a huge diversification, wherein they are already investing in more than 15 sectors. Then the expenses which we were talking. So what is the expense to it? So they have an expense of 1% here. They have a recurring expense of just 2.12 in regular plan, and direct plan 1.37. So maximum expense ratio is 2.1 for this scheme. So if in 100 rupees you invest, just 2.1912 is what they are taking as an expense from this from your investments. The daily net asset value, you also have to state that in case you have any issues, where you can write email address for communication, what all things you need. And this is the risk profile of the scheme. Now this is interesting. If you are studying finance and you are going to finance, just go ahead and read this. This is the fun thing. Okay, it has all the risk factors related to equity, related to fixed income, payment risk, repayment risk, credit risk, everything is stated here, right? And it's an amazing thing to go on. We will not go in detail for this, just for your thing I am explaining. Now they also need to compare with their existing schemes. Okay, so they have compared this with their HDFC equity fund, which is a mid cap fund. So this is a large cap fund, this is a mid cap fund. Okay, here is the investment strategy in both the cases. Here it says 80%, we already know. Here they've stated the similar thing, the risk. So number of folios and AUM. So the AUM of HDFC large cap top 100 is 16,600 crores is the AUM, and around 9.86 lakh investors are there. Number of folios means number of account holders. So there are 9.86 account holders, kind of investors, and 16,000 as the AUM, which is the assets under management. And the mid cap fund has amazingly 22,000 crores as the AUM and around 8.2 lakh thing. Then you have HDFC mid cap opportunities and small cap fund, right? So here also the AUM, the risk strategy. So they are also explaining, they have to explain this thing. So you have a thematic fund, infrastructure fund, and you know, we can understand here that what in under this thematic fund, what are the specific themes in which they will be investing. So airports, cement. So as I was telling, in a thematic fund can invest into multiple sectors, right? Is what we were talking yesterday, right now. So here they are investing in multiple, though the theme is infrastructure, but it includes multiple sectors. Okay, this is equity link saving scheme, which for 3 years you have to be lock in. And similarly there are other schemes which they are just talking of. These are many schemes which they have, and this is the comparison of various schemes. Post the schemes, so these are the debt schemes which they are doing: balanced fund and hybrid fund, right? We will just go down and make you understand the application form. So this is the application form. This is the, what we say, ARN code is MFI registration number. So if I have to be a registered mutual fund seller to get any investor invest here. So this is the ARN number, and ARN is like ARN 37100, 38200 is a code. Normally people get this printed on it, and there are the other things. The signature is needed, the name detail. You can see the KYC details are stated here. And when you have to mode of holding, so you can, if you can have more than one or more people investing in the same application, so you can hold it on a single basis, jointly basis, or anyone or survivor. If you have more than one investors, always tick on anyone or survivor, and these are the details which you have to suggest, the KYC details. In case you don't have a PAN, then these details have to be submitted, right? You have to state your income and other things in case you don't have the PAN. So this is the application form, and this is basically a kind of a scheme. Now similarly we can talk of a mid cap fund, which is which I've taken of a growing mutual fund company, which is Principal Asset Management Company, right? So again we see key information memorandum and application. This is the fund. It clearly states it's an open-ended equity scheme. It's investing in mid-cap stocks. This is the objective: long-term growth. It is moderately high. Okay, it has the name of the scheme. I'll just zoom it a bit. Okay, the name of the scheme, investment objective, asset allocation plan. Here it is: equity and equity mid-cap 65 and maximum 100. Other mid-cap is 35, right? And in depth it is 35. And it also says, based on this circular, risk profile, risk mitigation factors, investment plan, investment strategy. It's the same thing. Okay, this is the same format which everybody has to follow. You know, we can have fund manager. These are the two fund managers. The total experience of fund managers, Mr. Ravi Gopal Krishnan has 25 years of experience, and Sudhir Kedia has 13 years of experience. Performance of the scheme, right? So it's a new scheme. It is an NFO, the first time it has launched. So when it is launched for the first time, it is considered as key information, and then it is scheme information. So once the NFO is there and the the scheme is live, it is called SID. When it is coming for the first time, it is called KID, key information. Nature of the expenses, we can see the maximum expense they will be doing is 2.25. That's the max, which is very good. So recurring expenses is max is here based on the AUM. So MFI has come up with a new thing wherein they are giving the criteria that if your AUM is of a certain amount, you can have some flexibility of 30-40 basis point in expenses. You have a tax treatment, investors guideline. So everything is stated clearly here, and here it has to again product differentiation. They have this principal focus mid cap fund is what they're launching, and this is the multi cap fund which they already have. Right, this is an AUM of 353 crores, this of 734 crores. You can see the size of the HDFC funds and the size of principal asset management funds. They are like 10% of the size of what the HDFC AMC size is, right? So it has all these things. It has the asset allocation thing, which is clearly stated. Equity 6500 we've just discussed, right? So these are the things which are compulsory for them to state in the thing, and this is the way it happens. This is the application form. Again, on the application form they are indicating what is the thing, signature, ARN code, and the KYC and other things, right? So this is about it. I would also have just let's talk on a fact sheet. I've just taken the fact sheet of Principal Mutual Fund, which will have, which is the March fact sheet. So normally with a fact sheet which a company comes across, it also gives a economic scenario, it also gives the sectorial scenario. So this is about themselves, okay. And now we say what all things. So they are the details. Equity funds, these are the number of equity funds they have. They are the hybrid funds, fixed income funds, the solution oriented funds. I missed to talk on fund of funds. Now fund of fund is something wherein the mutual fund company will collect the money and they'll invest into 10 other mutual fund schemes, right? We will just see the fund of fund thing. So this is something which you should always read in a fact sheet. So this is the genesis of what is happening in the world. So if you look into, they even drive into it, it talks about the economic scenario because of COVID, what has happened. These are the various parameters of the economy. If you see, the rupee in 1 month has given 5% negative growth, and in 1 year 10%. The world index is around 13% minus in the month of March. From January till here it is around 30-40%. We can see the crude oil in the month of March was negative by around 55%, and annually around 60%. Gold last 1 year was a positive 22% return. This year it is not. Cotton and other things. It also has other indicators like FIIs, mutual fund net flows. So net flows were 10,000 crores in the month of this. Exports, so though March was a lockdown thing, we still see export of around 27 crores, $27 billion, which export has happened in March. These are the various indices performance, and this is the fixed market performance. So this is the way it happens, okay. And this is largely the things it happens. Now this is what the growth product suitability it's talking of. These are all the funds with moderately high risk. These are the funds bond with moderate risk. These are the funds with low risk, and global opportunities fund is with very high risk. Cash management fund has the lowest risk. So this is the NAV of each fund which they are talking, right? Each fund they said the NAV. This is about the income fund snapshot, SIP returns. So if you have invested 1 year in investment, the market value would be this. Now see, if you have invested since its inception, I will just zoom it again for all of you to view. So SIP is really interesting way to invest. If you have invested since 2008, investment of 13 lakh rupees, today it would have been 28 lakh rupees in just a span of 12 years with a return of 12% CAGR. It's very interesting. Okay, so they have the best fund as the mid cap fund. Multi cap fund is the best performing fund. So in 2005 it was launched, and if you had invested there 17 lakh rupees with, this is SIP. So if you are doing an SIP of 1,000 rupees a month since 2005, this would be your current value. Similarly, they have explained of the other funds in SIP. So SIP is systematic investment plan. You invest every month. This is the best fund. In fact sheet, they have all the facts. So we say fact sheet because it has all the facts of the scheme. Alright, let's go to a debt. I'll just show you a debt scheme. We've not seen a debt scheme, and then we will end today's thing. Right, so these are the various funds, and they put it very nicely. This hybrid equity fund, which includes debt and equity mix. Right, we will look into it. There's an arbitrage fund. Now this is the cash management fund. Okay, this is a pure open-ended liquid thing. So if you say lump sum investment, new investor has to be 5,000 SIP. They have 144 crores as an AUM. There is no entry load. There is an exit load if you late. The date of allotment, there are option, there is the name of the fund manager, and when and what is been considered. Now if you say where it is invested, so it is invested in commercial paper of HDFC, which is rating. So every debt scheme has to be rated, and mutual fund companies or schemes, they tend to invest into the papers, debt instruments only if with a positive rating. They will not invest into a negative rating. So CRISIL gives A plus. They have like A1 plus, AA plus, AAA plus, AA plus, multiple. Now the fund itself, a scheme itself, is rated A plus plus MFS plus plus by ICRA, which is one of the rating agencies. They have invested in the commercial papers of these companies, which are all rated A1 plus. They have invested in CDs of banks, which are all A plus, and they have invested in a treasury bill which is of government. So government bonds or government thing is not rated, and this is the way it is invested. And we can see the return they have given, right? 1 year and since inception around 6%. There is no risk, so it happens. Now we come to ultra short term. So ultra short term, they basically invest into instruments which are the duration between 3 months and 6 months, right? So the maturity of these schemes or wherever they would invest would be around 3 months to 6 months. Again, if you see the bonds and non-convertible debentures, the rating would be AAA. Commercial paper would be A1 plus, A1 plus. So friends, this is basically about debt schemes. I will just show you the fund of fund. So fund of fund, what they do is they collect all the money and they invest into funds, right? So they invest into multiple schemes. So in place of investing into the stocks, we invest into another funds. So this is an interesting fund which they run, which is called a global opportunities fund. So it is investing in overseas mutual fund schemes. So in investing in overseas, like let's say I want to take advantage of the investments happening or the companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft in US. How can I get the advantage of that benefit? So I can do that by investing in some global funds here. So we can see here their investments into various companies overseas, right? There are so many companies in which their exposure is overseas, from good companies to bad companies. There are so many things, and you can see here North America, they have a percentage of 42%, emerging markets 21, Japan 11, Europe excluding UK 10%, UK 10%, Asia excluding Japan, and cash. So this is so if you invest in these funds, the money would be invested into these geographical areas and the companies of these geographical areas. which are really interesting. And these are the industries. So you can see globally they've invested more into the IT and industry and financials. This would change in the near future, right? So this is basically about the fact sheet, right? Now if you look into how mutual funds are sold in India, so mutual funds are basically sold in India in two manners. They sell it directly or they sell it indirectly. Directly they sell from their own website, or they have a direct sales team who are employees of the mutual fund company AMC, and they go out and they directly sell. The direct channel is not getting a lot of investments, but the indirect channel has the larger share in getting the investments in mutual funds. Largely it is done by IFAs, which is independent financial advisors, like individual people who come and sell us LIC. In the same manner, the individuals who sell mutual fund schemes. Then there are banks who sell mutual funds. There are brokers, there are national distributors, financial institutions. They sell mutual fund, broking companies sell as a part, and they make money out of it. There are national distributors like Prudent, NJ India. There are also national online distributors like Grow, or Paytm is also giving an online platform for investing. So there are new ways in which mutual funds are coming up, and the way they are being sold in India. Online is going to be the next big thing by which mutual funds would be sold in India. And this is the structure of the way mutual funds are sold in India. But you need to have a compulsory MFI of or an NISM certificate to sell mutual funds in India. That's a mandatory thing, right? That's a certain exam which you have to give. The validity of the exam is for 3 years or 5 years. Post that, you have to again give that exam to continue the same thing. What's the future of mutual funds in India? We know that the way India is placed economically compared to the various global giants, and so we see India's economic growth to go high, people income to increase, advantage of the population, geographical workforce, increase in income, reducing bank rates. And because of all these reasons, we see that the mutual fund industry as a whole seems to be one of the sweetest spot in the investment scenario, right? So this is what all things we would discuss, and we would like to end it here on this note. And we are open for questions. So I think we discussed largely our journey today in understanding mutual funds, what mutual funds are, how mutual funds are managed, the types of schemes. We tried to understand the practical aspect of mutual funds by looking into various schemes, detailing into the various schemes, and understanding how it has been sold and distributed in India, the SIP, the taxation structure, and couple of other things. So I'll be happy to answer your questions now. So I appreciate